Hello, welcome back to my adventure of minis for the Our Mixed Media Moods Moodiversary. Thank you so much for all your sweet comments yesterday, and we are really excited to see that there are projects already rolling in. How incredible is that? We're very excited, you guys, to join you, to inspire you, to see your interpretations of our projects and our mood boards, and it really makes us happy. So this page I'm starting with here, this came out of my pile and of like alterables or bases that I have. And it's a 6x6 piece of pattern paper that I designed for 7.Studio. It came out of the Lost and Found line. And it's this gorgeous like light teal on one side, and then the other side is this golden yellow. And it is so delightful and delicious. It is a very heavyweight pattern paper, but I knew that I wanted to build on it with other mediums, even though I wasn't quite sure what yet. I knew that I needed to seal it, so I didn't want to lose any of the integrity of the paper. So I did one layer of clear gesso on the front and one layer of clear gesso on the back, because as it stands, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to turn these into. So then after everything was dry, the front and the back, then I put down some masking tape. I have masking tape in a bunch of different sizes. And I put that on and I wrapped that around the back, and then I got out my Stabilo because I love how the masking tape resists a Stabilo, and it sort of pools on top and creates this really, really great water, like water droplets effect. So that's what I'm doing there. And I'm also running it along, along the edges of the paper, and I'm kind of drawing it into the middle, and I'm not creating necessarily like perfect gradients. I just want some grunginess to happen. This paper did come with a lot of grunginess built into it. When I designed it, I did kind of specifically work towards that, and that's a little bit of my aesthetic. So if you buy any of the collections that I've designed for 7.Studio, you'll probably find that that is a frequent thing, the grunginess that I add to my papers. But I love it. So, and then it's really easy to build on top of, even if you want to add more grunge. So that's where the Stabilo came in. And then I got out this piece of chipboard from UmWowStudio. It's called the Daisy, and I'm covering it in gesso. Now, the inspiration piece that I'm pulling from, in that Moodiversary image, the mood board, there's a really gorgeous golden colored photo that has some flowers in it, and I'm not sure if they're daisies or sunflowers. I need to take another look, but that's where I'm pulling my inspiration from. So after I covered my chipboard in gesso, then I added some water to that gesso and I splattered it in the background of the page. Now you're going to see this flower take a lot of, let's see, how do I want to put this? It's going to go through a lot of changes. And the reason is because I'm kind of playing with it and I'm layering some things up and I'm trying to decide what I like. So first I added on some Stabilo, and then I didn't get the look I was going for. I actually was trying to sort of like draw the petals on, but because the Stabilo is so dark, it really, really kind of went crazy. All of a sudden, it was way too intense for that small surface of chipboard. So then I wiped some of it off and left some of it on, and then I decided to get out that gorgeous melon color that we have going on in our mood board and in the paint and things that we chose to use. And I started painting that on. And at first I painted it on kind of thin so you could still see some of the gesso and the Stabilo through. And then I decided I wanted a little bit thicker, so I went a little bit thicker. And then I thought, well, why don't I splatter some melon around in the background like I did the gesso? But I just tried to keep the dots a lot smaller. And I'm making sure that I'm heating everything because except for the Stabilo, I am using permanent products, acrylic, so once it dries, it's permanent. And then I thought, why don't I do some mark making? I have loved mark making. So this is where I use the back of the paintbrush. But because I'm using Stabilo, I put some Stabilo in the bottom of my cup and I watered it down. It's very thin. It's water thin. So the marks that I'm making are a lot smaller than if I were to use acrylic paint. And I'm finding sometimes that I'm putting too many of the same size patterns on a piece. So I thought that everything was sort of getting lost. So then I tried to cover the flower. I added back in some gesso. And then when I put it down on top of my paper, I thought, you know what? The problem is the dots. It's not the flower. Like the flower is still going okay. But here's one more change that the flower took, right? So then I tried to wipe up those dots, and I couldn't really wipe them up because they were really ingrained in that clear gesso, because clear gesso has so much tooth to it. So then I thought, okay, how cool would it be? Like, I thought the flower was getting lost, so I thought, how cool would it be if it looked like water? Oh, excuse me. Oh, just got a drink there. I thought, how cool would it be if it looked like water was sort of dripping down from the flower, rather than water dripping to the top of the flower. So then I used my Stabilo and I traced the flower, and then I made it really dark and I dripped the water down, and I thought that was really cool. So that really sets the flower apart, and it's pretty glorious, I'm not gonna lie. And and then this little piece of paper, it's a piece of vintage book text that I then took some charcoal to, and a ruler, and I drew the lines on it, and then I covered it with clear gesso. So it's really cool. It's got a really intense texture. I'll have to do a tutorial, like a video, so everyone can see how I made this paper. It's like my own vintage ticking paper. It's like really cool, and you'll love it. It's really easy, and it's such a cool technique, and just like it's handmade, so nothing's ever going to be the same. And then now I'm gluing down kind of some more scraps of that, basically, is what I'm getting at. I'm gluing down some scraps that I have of that, trimming them down to size so they don't overstick my paper. Also, one of the cool things about this piece of paper is that it was folded in half already, so it's kind of like a little file, like it's closed, and then I open it, and it's really neat. Then I went over to my sewing machine, and I used that melon color in the thread, and I just sewed a square around the right panel, not around the left. And I don't know why. When I got over there, I thought that I would do both the right and the left panel, but then I just loved how cool this looks. It just seems like it's drawing your attention, and it's helping you sort of focus on the flower. And I used a white Sharpie, and I did some handwriting. I did some lettering in there. And then I thought, you know what? Now that I've got all that white lettering, the flower could really stand to be a little bit more intense with the pink. So I scraped some paint on there. And it's okay. It's totally fine that my flower has like 10 layers of paint. I love it. It's got texture. You can see some of the other layers peeking through. It has a story to tell. And it just reinforces sort of the story that's already behind my piece, because I feel like I actually kind of played around on this piece, and I did some things I didn't like, and that's cool too, because they're sort of peeking through, and it's just a really, really fun project. I love how this is turning out. I did do some dots with a Sharpie on the flower, and then I got out, this is a huge pencil that Jerry's Artarama makes, and I'll give you the link to that. It's sort of like a Stabilo, but not quite, and it has some crazy, crazy, crazy thickness to it. It's like a huge pencil, and it's waxy, and it's really cool. And then I just used some gel medium to glue my flower down. Now my go-to would normally be like a golden heavy gesso, but I left that downstairs. And so I'm using some Finnabair 3D gloss. And that's it. Now my project is done. So check it out. Here are some close-up shots. This is number 2 of the adventure of minis. I'm so glad you're joining me. Don't forget to link up, join our Facebook group, like our Facebook page, join my Facebook group, join Jen's Facebook group. Check out what Jen's up to. All of that goodness. Stay connected, because we really love connecting with you guys. Ask any questions you have, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you again.